Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard, and this is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. You may ask me, Dr. Kennard, what do you do before the show? Immediately before hitting the start broadcast button, what do you occupy your time with? Memes? Making jokes? Writing jokes? Take this one for an example. Here we go. Now, I thought it was funny. It's a foul pun, but one picture is worth 1,000 logical fallacies, perhaps, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. Name of the video, it's all about Facebook, right? We're going to be talking about Facebook, but we're also going to be talking about the labor issues facing the United States of America, and we're also going to be talking about climate change. But let's start talking about Facebook first. I'm going to share this video about Facebook being in the trouble bubble. Name of the video is Facebook Under Fire after new documents are leaked. New documents, oh no, it's as if there's some kind of institutional issue over at Facebook about them screwing everything up. And here it is. I hope, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about this video after we're done. After it's done.
Facebook under fire once again, with new documents leaked by insiders regarding the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol. One employee writing in an internal chat, haven't we had enough time to figure out how to manage discourse without enabling violence? We've been fueling this fire for a long time, and we shouldn't be surprised it's now out of control.
The problem is what these documents also show is that there were times when within the company they had a finding and they didn't act on it.
The leaked documents showing that Facebook knew its algorithms pushed false content and that the company failed to halt the meteoric growth of conspiratorial groups.
These problems are solvable.
The leak follows bombshell testimony from former Facebook product manager turned whistleblower Frances Haugen before the Senate earlier this month.
The company's leadership knows how to make Facebook and Instagram safer, but won't make the necessary changes because they have put their astronomical profits before people.
The internal messages now coming to light show widespread frustration. One employee writing, "I'm struggling to match my values to my employment here. I'm tired of platitudes. I want action items." In a statement, Facebook says the responsibility for the violence that occurred on January 6th lies with those who attacked our Capitol and those who encouraged them. And it's called the leaked documents a curated selection out of millions. But these latest revelations aren't the end of CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook's worries. More documents are set to be published by media outlets this coming week. And on Monday, Hogan will testify before lawmakers again, this time in front of Parliament here in London. A global reckoning for a social media giant. Matt Bradley, NBC News, London.
And this time I remembered to unmute my microphone. I hope everyone's doing well today. This story about Facebook, it's not going to go away. You have Republicans angry at Facebook. You have Democrats angry at Facebook. It's clear Facebook is negligent. When Facebook says things like, we had nothing to do with January 6th, did it sound like Donald Trump saying that? Right? Donald Trump saying, I had nothing to do with the riot. I had nothing to do with the riots. That sounds just like Facebook. Just, that's what it struck me as microphone, that Facebook is just trying to wash its hands like Pontius Pilate. That's what it strikes me as. Come check out the chat, see how everyone's doing this morning. I hope you had a good weekend, everyone. Godless Granny, good morning. I hope you're doing well this morning. I am muddling through. I also was coming up with another joke. Which I was trying to put into meme form before the show, but I just didn't have the time. So I'll share it with you tomorrow. Simply Secular Dave. What's going on with what's going on, Dave, with the West Coast? You have to answer for the whole shipping industry and now for Canada too. They're shipping crates, boxes in the ocean. There's fires. It sounds like it's madness going on out there. What's up, Grant Farmer? Glad to see you doing well. I hope you're doing well, right? It's raining out here. Dreary day. Tobin Templeman, 4:20. Hey, Sammy, good to see your sleep disorders kicking in. I was up at 4:45 this morning myself. The Facebook devil has rejected me. I'm sorry to hear that, Dr. Mordecai. I finished watching Squid Game over the weekend. Gory, gruesome, but if you are able to get over those hurdles, it's worth watching. I've heard people complain about Squid Game, arguing about its acting or dialogue or other aspects of its production, but Squid Game innately, at least in my humble opinion, it is the language of rage. It is the language of rage about capitalism. And sometimes the language of rage is not coherent, but you can still hear the scream. It is a scream. And if you don't know what Squid Game is, it's a big show. It's a series, 9-episode series from South Korea. Worth your time if you're not too squeamish about gruesome images. Big Zebra. Hey. All right. That was Facebook. We're going to be learning a lot more about Facebook probably over the next couple of months. Will Facebook change its ways? I don't know. Here we go. Simply Secular Dave goes, between the weather and the container ship still burning, it's pretty crazy out here the last couple of days. Oh, I imagine it is. All right. We're doing the after party after show at 9:30, everyone. This show goes till about 9:25. That means we have a lot of things to do. It isn't just cracking jokes, talking about Squid Game and late stage capitalism. No. And doing I hope you enjoyed this. I worked at least like 20 seconds on that joke, everyone. I worked hard on that. All right. Labor shortage here in the states that cut off jobless aid see no surge of job seekers. It's almost as let's just get to the story, right? Before editorializing. In states that have cut off the $300 check, the workforce, the number of people who either have a job or are looking for one has risen no more than it has in the states that maintained the payment. That federal aid, along with 2 jobless aid programs that served gig workers and the long-term unemployed, ended nationally September 6th. Yet, America's overall workforce actually shrank that month. Policymakers were pinning too many hopes on ending unemployment insurance as a labor market boost, says Fiona Greig, managing director of J.P. Morgan Chase Institute, which used J.P. Morgan bank account data to study the issue. The work disincentives were clearly small. So in other words, cutting off that extra $300 a month, people or capitalists, owners were hoping that would get people back into the workforce. Didn't work as planned. An analysis of state-by-state data by the Associated Press found that workforces in the 25 states that maintained the $300 payment actually grew slightly more from May through September, according to data released Friday, than they did in the 25 states that cut off the payment early, most of them in June. The $300 a week federal check on top of regular state jobless aid meant that many of the unemployed received more in benefits than they did at their old jobs. An earlier study by, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, everyone, an economist at University of Massachusetts Amherst and several colleagues found that the states that cut off the $300 federal payment saw a small increase in the number of unemployed taking jobs, but it also found that it didn't draw many people off the sidelines to look for work. Oh, there's statistics and damn statistics, everyone. So there are people who just quit the workforce. There are people, and we're going to get to this. We're going to get to this in the story. But in terms of overall unemployment, getting rid of that $300 payment, really no effects. What's that microphone? The people in those states, they're typically red states that cut off the $300 payment, you're guessing? I'm guessing that too. They probably have poor worker protections in those states too. Probably. So people who work at crappy jobs in states that don't offer good protection, probably they aren't going to see a marked increase in people wanting jobs because they're just shitty jobs. All right. Smart man, smart microphone. That's what that microphone is. Economists point to a range of factors that are likely keeping millions of former recipients of federal jobless aid from returning to the workforce. Many Americans in public-facing jobs still fear contracting COVID-19. For example, some families lack childcare. We've covered that story for the last couple of weeks about families suffering under the weight of childcare. If you're not making more than, if you're making low wages, sometimes you're losing money by going into the workforce. When you're bringing your kid to childcare, for a lot of people, it just doesn't make sense, especially if you have multiple kids in childcare. Other people like Jill Montgomery of Anderson, Indiana, have grown to cherish the opportunity to spend more time with their families and feel they can get by financially, at least for now. Montgomery, a 37-year-old mother, said she has become much pickier about where she's willing to work after having lost a catering job last year. Losing the $300 a week federal payment hasn't changed her mind. She'll receive her regular state jobless aid for a few more weeks. Once you've stayed home with your kids and family like this, who wants to physically have to go back to work, she said. As I'm looking, I've told myself that I'm not going to sacrifice pay or flexibility working remotely when I know I'm qualified to do certain things. But what that also means is that it's taking longer to find those kinds of jobs. I have a job. I have a part-time job. And I could have a full-time job. I could have 2 full-time jobs if I want to, because I've always worked a full-time job and a part-time job. But I have gotten a lot pickier. I personally have gotten a lot pickier about what kind of job I want and what I'm willing to do in terms of work-life balance. And that seems to be common. In fact, we've talked about this before too. After epidemics, people, the job, whether you're talking about the bubonic plague in Europe or you're talking about the Spanish flu or now, labor markets become more fluid. People are more willing to take risks and to look for work and to look for the best deal. Indeed, the pandemic appears to have caused a reevaluation of priorities, with some people deciding to spend more time with family and others insistent on working remotely or gaining more flexible hours. Some former recipients, especially older, more affluent ones, have decided to retire earlier than they had planned. With Americans' overall home values and stock portfolios having surged since the pandemic struck, federal officials estimate that up to 2 million more people have retired since then than otherwise would have, after having received 3 stimulus checks in 18 months, plus federal jobless aid in some areas. In some cases, most households have larger cash cushions than they did before the pandemic. Grigg and her colleagues at JP Morgan found in a study that the median bank balance for the poorest 1/4 of households has jumped 70% since COVID hit. A result of that, some people are taking more time to consider their options before rushing back into the job market. You don't want to rush back because when you rush, typically you get screwed, right? Last panel. Exacerbating the labor shortfall, a record number of people just quit their jobs in August, in some cases spurred by the prospect of higher pay elsewhere. This is funny. In Missouri, a group of businesses still frustrated by labor shortages more than 3 months after the state cut off the $300 a week federal jobless checks paid for billboards in Springfield that said, "Get off your butt and get to work." What's interesting are that these capitalists, these owners, are willing to put up these fucking signs, right? They're willing to put up the signs to say, "Get off your butt and get to work." And they're willing to pay for that, but probably not willing to pay for maternity leave, paternity leave, higher wages, more vacation time. and being flexible with people working from home. Instead, they'd rather put these idiotic signs up, which don't work. Telling people to get off their butts and go to work is like, this is your brain on drugs kind of mentality. It's red state mentality, and it's evangelical mentality. It's sinners in the hands of an angry God mentality. And what does that mean? That's code for fucking stupid. You're right. American style stupidity right there. Jesus Christ. The state has seen no growth in its workforce since ending emergency benefits. We don't know where the people are, said Brad Park, general manager of Greek Corner Screen Printing and Embroidery, who helped pay for the billboards. Obviously, they're not at work. Apparently, they're not at home. But hey, that billboard saying, get off your butt and get back to work has helped so much. Jesus. I'm going to go back. Check out the chat before talking about a quick primer on global climate change from the BBC. That's the next story. Are we going to do the halftime tummy rub show? Yes, we are. But I want to see how everyone's doing. What's up, John Hudson? Yes, Gary Priestley. Many people are making that choice. Many people are saying, I don't want to keep up with the Joneses here in the States, right? I don't have to be caught up in that rat race. I don't need to. And so I'm out. Or they're just scaling back. I don't want to go back to the office. I can understand that. I can definitely understand that. John Hudson said, you couldn't pay me to go back to work. Yeah, I can see that. Oh, you love the Ducking-Kruger, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I was playing around with different images. If you haven't seen the Ducking-Kruger meme, here we go. Here we go. Ducking-Kruger effect there, everyone. So going back to the chat for a couple of more moments here. Andy can be pretty silly. I can. You're right. All right. Hey, what's up? Dragons in Genesis. I haven't seen your latest podcast episode. It is on my list. And it's something about foreskins, I think. Maybe, perhaps. I'm looking forward to seeing until hearing it. Okay. Yes. There are some companies, as I look for more work or better work, because even though I have a part-time job, I am interested in checking out what else is there. There are a lot of job openings, and the description says drug testing for some jobs, right? So the job will say requirements will be drug testing, and in parentheses, not THC, not for marijuana. So that's helpful. John Hudson, yeah, there are hundreds of thousands, and that's a low number too. 700,000 is a low number. There are, and once the dust settles, we will see exactly how many people have really perished from COVID-19. And that number. Not only is it a low number, but it doesn't tell you the walking wounded, the people with brain fog, the people with organ damage. Yeah, it just doesn't really give a good number, a good feeling for what kind of hit the country took. What's up, Dee Parks? I don't think I said hello to Dee this morning. Hello, Dee. All right. Let's do halftime tummy rub show, everyone.
There you go. Baptized and all forgiven. Thanks, John. Same time next week? You bet. Next. Hey. Sorry, I just need to ask a quick question. There is a line. Sorry, just quickly. What? Just checking. After you dunk us, that's all our sins forgiven, right? Well, yeah, I wash your sins away, and that covers everything. Yeah, pretty much. How long does it take? A couple of seconds? Perfect. One dunk then, please. All right. 1, 2, 3, dunk. Stop that man. Too late. Better luck next time, officer. That's fair and square.
An interesting short video on the insanity of just washing your sins away into the magical ether. All right. Once again, all the links are in the description below. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And also, no ads, right? All funded by you. So, a little primer here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to all the panels, but a small primer from the BBC about climate change. How bad is it? Wow, that seems bad. The annual mean land and ocean temperature above or below the average, starting off from 1900, I imagine that is what we consider what they're taking as the quote unquote average. And look at that spike. And it doesn't seem to be the trend line seems pretty clear, right? Things seem to be, what is it? So here's 1900. And so that is about once around here. What is it? Oh, I don't know, maybe around the 1940s, things start popping. Things start popping pretty seriously. Now, you may ask yourself, but Andy, do you have more infographics about how bad climate change can be? I do. I have something right here, everyone. How the world could get warmer. So it's already assumed that we're going to get 1 degree Celsius global warming. And right now, 1.5, maybe we might be able to stop it. Unlikely, but we might be able to stop it at 1.5 Celsius warming. And so you can now see exactly the kind of shit show that's going to happen as we just get warmer and warmer. Hey, if you're looking to buy some property in Greenland, this is probably the time. Greenland may actually become green. I remember reading in The Economist at this point years ago that cartographers, map makers, have had to change the map of Greenland because as the glaciers melt, as the ice melts, new land is being discovered. Okay, so let's go through a bit more about global climate change or the climate crisis. With further warming, some regions can become inhabitable as farmland turns into desert. In other regions, the opposite is happening, with extreme rainfall causing historical flooding, as seen recently in China, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. People in poor countries will suffer the most as they do not have the money to adapt to climate change. Many farms in developing countries already have to endure climates that are too hot, and this will only get worse. Most poor countries pull themselves up or become more developed. Their economies become more developed because they go through agriculture and then they build up an industrial base. But if you don't have agriculture to begin with, then that makes poorer societies even more poor. And also, when we think about mass migrations and how they have an effect on local governments, then that is also somewhat sobering, because a lot of the right-wing movements that we see in Eastern Europe and Hungary, Poland, you can also see it, actually, it isn't just in Eastern Europe. You can see Brexit as being a direct cause of this xenophobia towards foreigners. As global climate gets hotter, there'll be more migrants, and that creates more right-wing governments. That is a causality that I think I'm willing to go to the mat on microphone. I'm willing to say that. And it isn't because migrants are evil. It's because our stupid monkey meat brains, right? We become fearful of the things we do not understand. All right. Our oceans and its habitats are also under threat. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia, for example, has already lost half of its coral since 1995 due to warmer seas driven by climate change. Wildfires are more frequent. And as the frozen grounds melt in places like Siberia, greenhouse gases trapped for centuries will be released into the atmosphere, worsening climate change. You don't hear about this too often, but there's a lot of methane. And methane is much more dangerous than CO2 in terms of greenhouse gases. A lot of that is trapped in the permafrost in Siberia. Once the permafrost melts, that's just going to bubble up. It's already happening in Siberia right now. In a warmer world, animals will find it hardest to find the food and water they need to live. Polar bears, yeah, not so great. Not a good future. And scientists believe at least 550 species could be lost this century if action is not taken. The American military already treats the global climate crisis as a military danger, as a military threat. It would be nice if the rest of society considered it a threat to our way of living, or to the health and safety of people around the globe. If temperature rise cannot be kept within 1.5 Celsius, the UK and Europe will be vulnerable to flooding. You can say goodbye to the Netherlands, caused by extreme rainfall. Countries in the Middle East will experience extreme heat waves, and farmland will turn to desert. Those island nations in the Pacific could disappear, and African nations are likely to suffer droughts and food shortages. The Economist this week had a good article about the shit show that's going on in Nigeria. Nigeria is it has a weak central government. And because it borders up to the north, the Sahel is this region between the Sahara and non-desert areas. It's kind of like Savannah. But that area is rife with Islamic jihadism. So global climate change, the climate crisis, will have more immigrants. I mean, we'll have more people fleeing, right? Fleeing their areas due to the climate crisis. And we'll also see a rise in jihadism, in religious extremism. And that's what we're looking at. Gonna check out the chat. Oh yes, cheerful Monday morning. Just a bit of sunshine. That's what I am. All right. I think I caught up with everyone. Hey, we're doing good. Good morning, Bonnie. I'm running over, of course. I hopefully will see you all at 9:30 for the after party, after show. If you want to be on the panel, the link is in the description below, everyone. Let's do something funny.
In my super fundamentalist church, I kept a journal about my life with Jesus. And all through high school, I filled up like 8 or 9 notebooks. And there were long parts of the journal where I was writing what I thought a Christian would say, rather than my honest thoughts, which is super weird because this was supposed to be totally private and no one was ever going to read it. And there were some parts where I was like writing about what I wanted in a future wife. Sorry, I guess this one is a little dark. But I did sort of fantasize that maybe one day after I died, people would find the notebooks and read them and be like, wow, what a serious Christian. And before you asked to read them, at some point in college, I threw them in a dumpster.
All right. Take care, everyone. Oh, hey, this is me. I'm still here. I was like pushing buttons, but now I'm off. Take care. Bye. Adios.